actually, because you're hearing other people share and trying to right size their feelings. Um, and the magnification is, they're constantly normalizing and sharing, rumination. The time limited, you really have to limit people's sharing, because some people will go on and on and on and on, and then no one will get a chance to share. So as people learn how to limit their sharing and get to the point, their thinking starts to get more focused. And helplessness, this is one's great, because RTR puts clients in charge of their own experience. I'm not telling them what to feel. I'm asking them to tell me. I'm not telling them what things apply to them. I'm asking them to apply to me. Describe it. Tell me more detail. And they make choices. And the guided imageries I use as part of RTR, and they're also on Amazon in a CD, and they're also on my website, guided imageries, and they're free on the website. So they teach relaxation techniques. I was a yoga teacher, and I always incorporate breathing and relaxation into, this is 40 years, 50 years ago maybe. And they help, the guided images help to process emotion, and they're soothing. They're soothing. They teach the skills of self-soothing. Now the trauma timeline, I'm going to go through briefly, because this one also is very doable. And it can be done as a paper and pencil activity and shared. Very complete. It can be done in a group. Everybody can do their own, share it in the group. It can be done in one-to-one. It's very user-friendly, and it helps to put traumas in context, because oftentimes when we've been traumatized, we lose a sense of context of a beginning, middle, and an end. We forget where things happened, how much happened, when it happened. And then I also added a breakthrough timeline, because it's positive. So you want to capture the times in your life when you had that aha experience or made a change that led to another change, and you want to take hold of all of that in therapy. So this is the trauma. You can see you just write in every 5 years and then share it. It starts to put things in time. And then perhaps in this period, not much happened, but and then a couple more things happened. But what people will find is, if they didn't resolve this, they either repeated or it felt like they were repeating. So you need to resolve things in order to let them go. Positive changes, these are changed schools, got a job, joined the choir, at church, etc. One good thing built upon another good thing. One breakthrough led to a life of breakthroughs. The interface of RTR and psychodrama, you saw a bit of in that film clip, because that was a small, it wasn't even a role play really, but it was just an examination, and letting him do a little more personal sharing around why he chose what he chose. And then, as you saw, walk out, take a step forward, choose again. It is entirely is an integration of sociometry research on trauma, grief, anger, forgiveness. There is a section on forgiveness and the myths that are in the way. It's a whole experiential process, and it brings up a lot, because it's not just, doesn't just jump you into forgiving. It brings up all the pain and the anger and the resentment that are in the way of your forgiving. So it's a nice way to process that with a kind of a positive goal. Small role plays, you saw that, and you'll see more of them if you look at the films that I'm mentioning to you. Life or relational dynamics on on rewind. Psychodrama can act as a trigger that's already analyzed. What would you like to work on today? Well, I'd like to talk to my mother. When I heard so-and-so talking, I got triggered back into that place. So then you've got the moment right in front of you, and all you need to do is let the moment happen. Psychodrama isn't something to think too much about. It's something to listen and follow. If you're the director, listen to what the client is bringing forward. Tell them what to work on. You let them tell you what they want to work on, because that's what's ready. That's where they're going to be. That's where they're going to get something from what they're bringing forward. And then your job is to just create space and safety so that they can move forward into their own process. You don't want to get on top of them or in their face. You want to just be beside and behind them and keeping the room safe and keep it moving forward. Who would you like to talk to? Would you like to use an empty chair, a role player? Okay, what do you want to say? Okay, reverse roles. Just keep it gentle and simple. Talk alone. This is a Bessel van der Kolk quote, who is such a leader in trauma. Cannot reach the parts of the brain that are affected by trauma. We need to revisit the body we lived in at the time of the trauma in order to heal it. It's a form of reliving. You saw in the little film clip, he was reliving, revisiting. His body was shivering and shaking again. He was shutting down again. He was not able to move forward again. And he could then move slowly out of that. If the clinician can recognize these moments and allow them, the client will be in the midst of healing him or herself. You saw him do that. Just recognize it and help them through it, but don't create it. They will reknit the fragments of their own inner world back together in a more coherent whole, and they will emerge from this experience with greater sense of self. I guess I said that. And according to Kolk, if clinicians can help people not become so aroused that they shut down physiologically, this is key. They'll be able to process the trauma themselves. So that's the key. Read that card a few times later on, because if you want to do trauma work, this is the key. The warmed up body. In psychodrama, we talk a lot about warm up, and we want to work with warm up. Let people be warmed up to what they want to work on so they're ready to relive and process and move through it. We can create warm-ups in the group, but an ongoing group, people just come in warmed up usually. And then they learn to use warm-up in life. What's their warm-up to the day? What's their warm-up to going to work? My warm-up to writing? My warm-up to this webinar? What's our warm-up to going out this evening to a party? What's the warm-up that we have? What's my warm-up to going to see my grandchildren? What do I think? What I feel? How do I get ready for it? How do I warm myself up to it? And I notice I want to leave some room for questions and answers, so I'm going to wrap this up in about the next 3 minutes. Role play allows us to experience ourselves within a relational dynamic. And in reversing the roles, we go and we stand in the shoes of the other person. This is very important. We see how we felt, we see how they felt, and oftentimes we not only gain empathy from them, for them, but we gain a sense of distance because we realize that they were in their own space and time with their own issues, and they maybe made us the butt of their issues, but we shouldn't have been. And standing in their shoes clarifies that. It helps us to walk back into ourselves in our own role with greater freedom and insight. And it's the role dynamic that is stored inside of us. It's the role dynamic. People talk about object relationships. You store the voices. We store the full dynamic. That's why we assign those other people. You know, we find a marriage partner and we elicit the bad parent out of them. We just bug them until we get them to act like the person we're most afraid of, most unconscious about. We recreate the things that hurt us the most that we're most unconscious about. So the role plays can allow us to rework power imbalances, et cetera, et cetera. It works with the internalized role repertoire by concretizing it. And things emerge spontaneously. You don't talk about, because remember the thinking mind is shut down, so it's very hard to reach back and talk about what hurt, but to be in the role and have it blurt out is much more efficient and much more authentic. And it strengthens us to do it. It gives us our power back. Our therapist doesn't give us our power back. We have to get our power back. It invites the body to move within the therapeutic milieu. I oftentimes, if people are freezing up, I'll say, if your chest could talk, what would it say? If your neck had a voice, what would it say? If your legs that are shaking could do something, what would they want to do? If your jaw could talk, had a voice, what would it say? Parts of the body that get tensed up, if your stomach had a voice, can find a voice. It feels great, very relieving. The pressures and demands of the role stimulate the emotions, and I talked
Dr.
about
Dayton,
all that.
Forgive me
Yeah,
for
time to do
interrupting.
work. No.
Forgive me for interrupting you. I just wanted to let you know that we have a hard stop preset at in 10 minutes. So I
So
just
let's
wanted
do our
to,
question.
yeah, this is so
We're
fast.
fine.
Oh, is that what you want to do? Go ahead and
Yeah,
move the
sure.
questions.
We've
All right.
covered everything. Yeah, let me go and let me just show we don't pathologize the whole person. That's a good important. We go role by role. But we don't and we people can look at these. They'll get something from reading these. I think these are on Amazon. This is the theory behind it and the model. So let's take a couple questions.
Excellent. Okay, so it's my understanding that we cannot share the PowerPoint. That's kind of a copyrighted item for you. Is that correct?
No, you can share it. It's fine.
Oh, well, that's so nice of you. Thank you.
Sure. You're
This
welcome.
book that Dr. Dayton is sharing, she has kindly offered to donate signed copy to one lucky attendee, and we will announce that at the end of the meeting. And I put the links in the chat section, so you can go to Amazon and order the book if you want, and some other things too. We really appreciate that. Dr. Dayton, one of the questions from an attendee was, what about countertransference when you're conducting this type of therapy?
A good question. It's the same as any kind of therapy with the countertransference, but the therapist, this is why a therapist never takes on roles, ever. If you see that happening, um, take note. They shouldn't be happening because it's very easy to get caught in the transference. But so you would work with it the way you work with any countertransference, but it keeps the therapist from a little safer away from the countertransference to be outside of the way I was. You saw me in that clip, and also it gives by putting an issue on stage. It deals with both the transference and the countertransference because you're recreating the thing that you would be the seed of the transference. You're going back to visit the family of origin dynamic that would be the one that would transferred onto anyone in the group. And the countertransference, I think every therapist should be in their own process of healing all the time because otherwise clients can trigger you. Is there another question? I hope that answered it. Jackie?
Apologize. Another question was how to identify that frozen space in both kids and adults.
Right. Well, that's tricky, but if you can do that, you can do trauma work. People miss that, and it looks you can't see it. It looks like this. Or it looks like this, or sometimes people are really clever at hiding it and it looks like this. But if they're, whatever is on top of the frozenness, if you look in neuropsychodrama, I do something called frozen moments. That's how I've learned to work with it because it's tough people come and they freeze and then you have to worry about unfreezing them or warming them up. But if they do a frozen moment, a psychodrama of a social item of a frozen moment, they take hold of their own frozenness and they want to work with it themselves. So then you can ask questions on the social atom like who do you want to talk to, what would you like to say, and so forth. But they are identifying a time that they froze. They're not just going into the drama and then freezing in the course of the drama because, of course, when you put the family of origin up, as you're probably rightly perceiving, the chances for freezing all over again are high. And when you identify with it, you can also double. You can just go behind the protagonist. I feel frozen. I feel shut down. And then see if they put words on it too. Or help them reverse roles, So or I love using for frozenness soliloquies. Just say, can I take a walk with you and narrate what your inner experience is? It works very well for frozenness because it's gentle.
Wow, very interesting. Thank you for that. So there's 5 minutes left, and I wanted to share with the attendees that Dr. Dayton may be open to doing more of a series of these or some educational ongoing work. Obviously, she's brilliant, and this is such needed information to disseminate. So if this interests you, please indicate so, either in the chat section or the question section, or email us at Eating Disorder Hope or Dr. Dayton, because we would love to provide more of this. I know she has so much to share, and we only have a little bit of time here. We have just a couple of minutes left. Do you have any final things to share, Dr. Dayton, with our attendance group?
Well, I think the embodiment of the healing process, and we're talking in eating disorders for the purposes of this webinar, but for any mental health issue, is so important, because the body and the mind are function as a system. So being able to embody the process in this rather natural form of role play is very healing, and I would say less is more. A lot of people fear psychodrama because they think it goes all over the place. That's really not the way it needs to be at all. It's simple. You don't jump around in your home. You talk. It's like a natural interaction with people, and you're just trying to rework it. Just bring it to the surface and rework it and see it from different points of view. That in itself is so powerfully healing. You don't need to do a whole lot more. So this can be a very simple process. I think it's at its best when it's very simple.
Agreed. Well,
And
thank
let's
you
see.
everyone for attending today. The survey link is in the chat box. Be sure and click on that and complete the survey. It's all automated online. Once we receive that and verify that you are here for the full hour, we will process your Certificate of Education, CEU, for this event. And you will receive that within 1 week of this presentation. And Dr. Dayton, if anyone would like to reach you after this, would you suggest they go through us, or would you like them to contact you directly?
Probably they should go through you, if that's okay, Jackie. That would be.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a contact us page on Eating Disorder Hope. Most of you have our email. And
you can also contact me. Sorry, you can contact me through my website also. There, I have a contact page.
She does, and I put the website in the chat box also. Tian, am I saying that right? I'm trying hard. TianDayton.com. And thank you again. This was fascinating. I hope we get to hear more from you in the near future, Dr. Dayton.
That would be nice. I'd like to work with you again. It's been fun.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a great day. Bye-bye.